All right, everybody, welcome back to the Good Old Hockey Podcast. Me and Galli are in the same room this time. We're in a studio, SB Studios here in Boise, and we've got another interview for you guys. Not Dustin Wolf, not NHL level, but it will be interesting. Galli, rip off his resume.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
We got a very special guest today. He's one of my very good friends from college. He's a Boise native, Boise State Hockey alumni. This guy's an absolute legend on Boise State campus and a ladies' man a little bit. With 4 full seasons under his belt, he's in the ACHA. He's got 143 points in 115 games. He's very good at hockey. He lives and breathes hockey. He's gotten me into beer league. Shout out the Hooligans, back-to-back 5v5 champions. He's pretty good at predicting the overs and unders as well. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have Justin Jones, aka Jay Jones, today.
Thanks for having me, boys. That was a crazy intro. I don't think I've ever got anything like that. But yeah, first off, just wanted to shout out the Hooligans. It's back-to-back year champ again this year. I got moved at the deadline, so I didn't get a ring this year, but I was happy to see you get one.
Yeah.
Second one?
Yeah, so for all the viewers out there, Justin was like way too freaking good for B League hockey. Dominated. He was like beyond the Gretzky of B League hockey. So he got moved up to A. Unfortunately, we definitely miss him. But yeah, we still did win 3v3. We did win 5v5 without him. We definitely miss you, Justin. But we still got his brother and his dad on the team. So
yeah, I didn't realize you guys won Fall League too. So you did go back to back in 2 different formats. It's pretty impressive. But yeah, that was super fun. I mean, B League is pretty competitive too. It's cool playing with my dad and my brother for a couple of years. So
yeah, super sick.
Super nice. But yeah, boys, thanks for having me. Let's get
100%. Well, yeah, just starting out, Justin's obviously I don't even know. I feel like I could call you so many different names, Jonesy or Justin or whatever, but he's a Boise native.
I've always had a lot of
what was it like growing up here in Boise, one? And then what was it like growing up kind of in a non-traditional hockey market like Boise? Could you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like to start growing up in Boise, I kind of grew up more just like a suburb. Meridian, obviously Eagle, they're all kind of come the same thing now, but it's definitely grown a lot, and it's a great place to grow up. I mean, you got the mountains, you got all the outdoor stuff if you're into that, and there's a lot of good people in Boise too. So had a really good time doing that, and I guess non-traditional hockey market, that's a good way to put it. There was always some really talented players like growing up. Plenty of guys who went on to go play major, junior. One, I remember Zach Walker, he was pretty big here. I think he was in 98, went on to go play NTDP, Boston College, even played for the Steelheads.
Yep, he did play for the Steelheads.
Just incredible hockey player. But I mean, there's been plenty to be born here, grow up, go play somewhere. And I'd like to think that it's just going to keep growing. I'd like to think the game is growing. So, I mean, the market itself is growing. You look at states like California that have seen so many more good players come out of those states and more people playing hockey. So, yeah, it's been pretty cool. But definitely, I was on the smaller side growing up. I remember like my high school, just telling people I played hockey, and it was like, not a lot of people knew a lot about the sport. I would say like the predominant sports in Boise are probably basketball, football, baseball are probably your top 3. Lacrosse is going, but I'm like really happy to see the sport growing in Boise, especially the Boise State Hockey Club, I think is gaining more traction. So that's been really cool to see too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I feel like Millimuck was a Boise, or not a Boise State, a Steelheads legend in the early days. And then didn't his son play for them this year, correct?
Connor, yeah, a pretty close friend of mine. Him and his brother Luke is an 01, so he's my age. I think Connor's a 2000, so they're pretty close birth year wise. But yeah, I mean, their dad, Jeremy, played for him growing up. He was a coach for like the junior Steelheads program, and just a great hockey mind, great person. And I think he's up at Coeur d'Alene now running the hockey academy, but he had a pretty good career with the Steelheads. I mean, he had his number retired and Kelly Cup champ twice, I think. So once or twice, but really good coach too. And yeah, his sons, Connor, definitely has a promising career in pro hockey. I mean, he can chuck them, he can score. And the craziest thing, he's like the nicest guy ever. Like you'd never think he's so tough, but like one of the most respectful, nice people I know. And his brother Luke is another great dude, and I think he's finishing up one more year of college at Niagara, and curious to see what he's gonna do with his career. But yeah, just what a hockey family, right?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's kind of cool. The Steelheads started in 1997. and you're starting to see these kids that grew up watching the Steelheads, playing in the junior Steelheads and all of that, really go on to succeed at another level. So it's pretty cool. I feel like it definitely speaks a lot about how much hockey's grown here in Boise and Idaho in general. And it shows like definitely what a pro hockey team does, even at the ECHL level too, like a smaller city like Boise. I mean, I feel like Boise was not on the map at all with hockey before that. And, after that, not saying it is completely on the map, but I mean, there's definitely players coming out here, which I think is really cool. And I definitely agree. I think it's going to continue to see more players go on to the next level and stuff. So I know a lot of our viewers might not know a lot about Idaho. Obviously you guys might know it's cold here, but did you ever play outdoor much around Boise at least? I know like in McCall it's a lot more prominent, but like, is there any good outdoor spots around here?
I mean, I can't think of like an actual outdoor rink in Boise.
Really?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's as cold here in the winter now, but growing up, a lot of pond hockey around the area, especially before, like where I grew up in like Meridian, it wasn't as big. So like there was a lot more land and like just places to actually go play pond hockey. But no, outdoor hockey in Idaho, I mean, there's a pretty nice outdoor rink in Salmon, Idaho. That's a pretty small town back east. And that was one we went to every year as a kid, and like core memories of just playing at that rink. And like I think they had like the chain link fence. You've probably played
Oh
there,
yeah, dude. So I grew up in Bozeman, for people that don't know, and we would go down to Salmon, and that rink is very it's probably one of the most interesting rinks in the West Coast, maybe even the country, just because like there's chain link fences. But I remember playing there in high school one time, and the whole town showed up because it's a small town. What else are you going to do in Salmon, Idaho? In the winter, especially. I mean, I feel like in the summer, you go on the river and fish and stuff, and maybe in the fall you hunt. But in the winter, it's like, I feel like not too much else to do there. So the whole town showed up. We ended up barely winning, like 7-6. But I remember like you could hear everything everyone was saying around the rink. And like 2 of our players got ejected. One of our players like left the ice flipping off like double birds to the whole town of Salmon. And like the locker rooms are not like very secluded either. It's like someone could totally just come and jump our whole team. So I was a little bit scared, but dude, Salmon, definitely some core memories. It was cool playing there at night because they got the lights shining down and stuff. But in the morning, I don't know. Did you ever play there in the morning?
Maybe. So like, I always
cold.
did most of my playing up there like when I was probably like squirt pee-wee age.
Yeah.
So like my memories are a little different than like someone do a double bird to the crowd.
Yeah.
It was probably like half the kids out there were falling down and complaining because they're so cold. But no, like what a sick place. I would have loved to play like a game in like high school or college. Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
I was too dust to play anywhere else, so I ended up playing my high school hockey in Salmon, Idaho.
That's cool. Did you ever play in what's that one? Blank on the name.
Stanley.
Yeah, have you been to that one?
Oh no, I've heard about that one. I see it every year on like Facebook. I'll see it's like in an event. Yeah. And I don't know. I've never made the trek up there, but it's weird because they don't have. It's not like a rink up there. They just have a couple sheets on. Maybe I don't know where they do it, but they just clear the snow, and I think they play like the mini net version too. So it's not.
Yeah, they do like the with the wood. Like little holes on the bottom too.
Yeah.
And they do it, you got to shoot it in there. So it's not like a traditional like ODR, but it's really cool. The scenery there is awesome.
Stanley, favorite place to go. Like growing up, we'd go camp there all the time, and
that's awesome.
True.
Never been there in the winter, but it gets cold. I think it's actually the coldest place in the continental U.S. like annually. Like just
really
base temperature. Yeah, I mean it gets pretty.
In the
cold
winter,
right
it's
there.
like people can't even live there.
Yeah.
In the wintertime because it's so bad.
Jeez.
Almost burned down too. There's a big fire going on.
I saw that. Stanley's sweet though. I mean,
cool
just
place.
like the Sawtooth Mountains are like some of the most beautiful mountains I think in the country, and it's definitely a secret gem of Idaho. I feel like not a lot of people know about.
So don't go there.
Don't go there. It's actually a very bad place. You're gonna get attacked by grizzly bears and everything. So
high crime rate out there. Yeah,
got sharks in the rivers.
Very high crime rate too.
Steal your cattle.
Yeah.
Just transitioning back to growing up here and playing. Was there any like influences or coaches that you remember that really just affected you today or affected your play, or is there anyone you'd like to shout out? Or
I mean, shout out to all my coaches I had in hockey. I mean, they were all beauties, and a couple of them, played for the Steelheads, right? So that was always pretty good, getting like just their view on the game and helping me out. But I mean, Millimach for sure. As a little kid, he was very insightful. Just had so much respect for him. But I think one that definitely sticks out is John Howell.
Okay.
My good buddy Jackson Howell, his son, is actually going to be a freshman at Boise State this year, and he's actually moving into my room I'm moving out of right now, and he's going to play on the hockey team. He played a little bit of juniors for like the Idaho Falls Spud Kings and I think the Provo Predators, but I think he's got a good hockey career ahead of him. And his dad, I believe he's from Edina, and
Okay.
coached me from probably like squirts and peewees, and I mean, pushed me harder than most of my coaches in hockey, just in terms he's a very intense guy. He's a lawyer, great guy. But just he used to have this hat, like he'd always wear a hat to every game, and by like the second period, it would be just in his hand being folded like a taco. Like he just abused that poor thing, and I just vivid memories of being on the ice and he's just yelling at me to move my feet. And like looking back, it's like you always hate being yelled at by a coach, but the coaches that push you like that and always want to see the best out of you are definitely the most important because, they're not going to sit back and watch you, take a night off. And, just a great person, still really close with his son. And I'm excited to see what his kid does for Boise State because he's a hell of a player.
That's sweet. Yeah, I feel like
I've had some not shitty, but there was a coach one time that said I skate like Woody. You know how like Woody runs in Toy Story?
Oh,
like
yeah.
He told me I skate
God.
like that, and I was like, okay, dude.
Dude, I feel like there's not enough coaches like that anymore.
No,
I feel like
they're
it's
not.
diminishing the amount of
it's getting
coaches that
softer.
are.
Well, I think also we see that with Daryl Sutter. Like he, very hard style coach, but if you're not winning, you can't do that. Like players are just like, fuck off, dude. But if you're
especially
winning,
in the NHL now too.
Yeah, if you're winning, you can say whatever you want, but the minute that you start losing, you're canned.
Yeah. No, I know. Dude, I had a coach one time. We tied this team, and it was not a very good team at all. It's freaking Montana hockey too, and it was like Bozeman and Missoula and like Billings were probably like the best teams, and we tied like this team from Glasgow, which is like a town of like 2,000 people. Anyways, the coach like just went into the locker room and basically was like, "Yeah, get all your warm up gear on. Meet me in the parking lot." And like I remember the opposing team was coming out and watching us, like what the hell, and we just did dry land training for like an hour straight after the game. It was brutal, but like I just feel like that's not happening anymore. I feel like parents would get mad, kids would get mad.
It wouldn't fly.
And I feel like especially like in Montana and Idaho, I don't know if you ever, I mean, you might have been one of the people, but like, when the hockey's not good enough, you'll move to another city or move to another town. Which shit, I guess we could just transition into that. I guess what made you move to Coeur d'Alene? I know you went to Coeur d'Alene Academy. Yeah. But could you just talk about that when you did that and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of like we talked about with Boise being a small hockey market, the routes, I guess, if you want to just play hockey here is you play either AA or single A or B or something like that, or you play high school and at some point you either, call it a career. I mean, if you're good enough, I guess you try out for like Boise State Club hockey or something like that if you want to go to college. But my whole life, I would say it was very sport oriented. So my dad always toyed with the idea of like, moving away from home to go play because you just really can't pursue hockey like that if you stay here. And my brother actually, DJ, he's 2 years older than me, so he's 99. He moved out to Omaha, Nebraska to go play Omaha AAA there. And that was kind of my first experience, having someone really close to me go out and do something like that and play at such a high level, like Tier 1 hockey. And I mean, just guys before him, you just noticed like they were really good and had potential, they would always be taken off somewhere to go play. So
big time.
Colorado Thunderbirds, that was a big one. Had a really close friend of mine as growing up, John Driscoll. He went out and played there, and I thought about the idea. It's a great program. He's playing at I think he transferred to Sacred Heart, I want to say, but he was playing at Army, and I mean he played in the USHL, really good player.
That's sweet.
But I mean, there's been so many guys here that have been just great at hockey to go on and play elsewhere because you kind of have to, right? So
100%.
I wanted to kind of move away my freshman year, but as I got into high school, I was like, well, I play football and baseball too, and I have a lot of friends, so it was like it's pretty hard to just say I'm gonna pack up and leave just to go play hockey.
Yeah.
So my sophomore year, I ended up making the decision to stay somewhat close to home and go to Coeur d'Alene, and had a couple friends from here too. Camden Gallagher, who I played with at Boise State, went up there and played 2 years.
The other Galli.
the other Galli, right? Who I live with. Yeah, great guy.
Great guy.
Hell of a hockey player too. So we moved up there for a little bit. I actually moved up there with my mom. We had an apartment up there, and
Nice.
a lot of people bill it, right? You live with the host family, and I don't know if I wasn't ready for it, but if I could go back in time, I definitely would have done it because I think it would have been crazy just to really be on your own and take care of yourself at such a young age. I mean, that's how you mature quick, and it was awesome having my mom up there too because she's one of my biggest supporters. But yeah, I played a year up there, and we went all over Western Canada playing in the CSSHL.
Nice.
There's been so many great names that come out of that league, like Bedard specifically.
Damn.
Handfuls of NHL players and great players. And I mean, it was a trip. I mean, you got to see what that high level of hockey was like, especially the Canadian version. And I mean, it's definitely an eye-opening experience too, because you watch those prep teams play, and there's just some kids out there that are just dominating, especially at like a young age.
Yeah.
Playing against 18-year-olds and stuff. And yeah, it was a great experience. I just think part of me was always like a little homesick, and
Definitely.
I always, I play other sports too, so seeing all my friends like still playing football, and I mean having friends back home, I was like, oh, I'm kind of missing out on that part of my life. But like looking back, and especially after playing hockey only in college, I mean, if I could go back in time, I probably would have just stayed playing hockey because I mean, you look back on like high school, it's really like what you do then. It's important in making memories, but I mean, if you have a career or opportunity with the sport to follow that, no matter where it takes you, I think you should do that. I just feel like part of me always maybe just didn't have that ultimate drive to just like, oh, I'm going to the league. Like, I want to be a hockey player. It was always like, I enjoyed hockey, but I mean, there are other aspects of my life that, made it harder to just like totally focus on it.
Yeah. I noticed that with, we were talking to Dustin, we had asked him a question like, what would you do if you didn't play hockey? Like, what would be your career path if you didn't choose to go to the NHL? And he was like, honestly, like, I didn't really think of anything else as a kid.
Yeah.
And that like clicked for me. And I was like, oh, that's like, I mean, not all that it takes, but your drive and everything is a huge reason into how far you play. And like, I never really had that. And, people always think like, oh, you're just bad at hockey, but there's like so much of like drive that goes into it.
Absolutely.
It's tough. Yeah.
So you probably went across the border a lot when you were playing up there. What was that like? Did you have like an express pass or anything? Or
I mean, no, you got a passport. I mean, I think the funny thing is we had just the most rinky-dink bus in Coeur d'Alene. It was like one of those like class C motorhome type buses. You know what I'm talking about? It looks kind of like a school bus, but it's got like the extended cab.
Yeah.
So it fits probably like 15, 16 people instead of like, your typical sleeper bus.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was funny because we go over Canada and they would just for some reason be searching it like just up and down. And it's a border, but I mean, just what a place. You go to so many cool places. I mean, there's a good prep school called Shawnigan Lake School up in Victoria, and taking like the ferry out to the island from Vancouver, and just some cool places. That's got to be one of my favorites. But
Victoria's sick. Dude.
Victoria's cool.
It's underrated. Yeah, it's underrated. Compared to Vancouver, I like it better than Vancouver.
Yeah,
Vancouver.
I mean, that's an interesting city too. But it's just Victoria is a sick place. I wouldn't mind living there, honestly. Like,
it's like doesn't get cold. It's like
no, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's a great
climate,
great place. So
nice people.
Did you go like up north, way up north at all?
Furthest north I've been is probably Calgary.
Really?
Yeah, so we went to Calgary.
Go Flames.
Go Flames. I was actually a Flames fan growing up. Jerome McGinley was my inspiration to wear number 12.
Interesting.
I was just a diehard Iginla fan. Like I had an Iginla fathead in my room, and I was originally a Flames fan. But my parents lived in Santa Clara for a little bit, and they had season tickets to the Sharks. So then I kind of would always watch Sharks games with my dad. And the Flames were pretty bad for a while.
They still kind of are, unfortunately.
But I mean, the Sharks, looking back, like my dad was a diehard Sharks fan, and you had Patty Marleau, you had Joe Thornton, and like even Pavelski, and guys like Jonathan Chichu, who a lot of people don't maybe remember.
Oh yeah, Chichu was lit.
He just lit it up for a couple of years, and I mean Nabokov. They just had such a good run for like over a decade and could just never get it done.
I know. Thought they were gonna do it. When they went to the finals, I want to say when was that?
Pittsburgh
anymore.
Yeah, and I know you're a Sharks fan, so I just remember that year was tough for me because I'm a Carolina Panthers fan too. So I had to watch the Panthers lose the Super Bowl, and then later I watched the Sharks lose the Stanley Cup, and I was just heartbroken because I was always just like a Crosby hater growing up because he was so good, and like I didn't like the Penguins, and I mean they just they could just never get it done. And it was
Yeah.
hopefully someday. I mean, bright future.
Yeah.
Eklund Celebrini
No,
and
totally.
William Eklund. They have a lot of good prospects, but it is a tough trophy to win. And you look at Florida this year, and not surprising they won.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I know, with a bunch of ex-Flames players, just
They
breaks
did,
my heart,
yeah.
man.
That was probably tough.
Did you think TG Ginla was going to go to the Flames?
Tej, yeah. I mean, I sometimes on YouTube I'll see like people post these videos of like it's like youth hockey, but I think I watched a couple of Tej Ginla, and he played in the WHL this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
He
So I
was
saw his
ripping it up.
highlights there too, but I'd known about him for a while, and I mean he's got so much skill, and I was thinking, yeah, it'd be sick for him to go to the Flames, but you gotta remind me, who did he get drafted to?
Utah.
Oh, he's going to Utah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, honestly, that's gonna be an interesting.
He's going to be like their cornerstone of their
Yeah.
franchise. Like,
Yeah.
but
So he went like top 10, I'd assume.
yeah, he went
Yeah.
6 overall.
6 overall.
I mean, we both went to the draft, and
At
yeah,
the Sphere?
it was heartbreaking
really?
to see TG Ginla get drafted to
I was
Utah.
waiting, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. But the Flames got Perek, so I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the Flames draft. But just
Yeah.
going back to playing in Canada, was there a big jump in the skill level playing, obviously, I mean, I'm sure, yes, there is, but could you just touch on what it was like playing in Canada versus playing in Idaho your whole life?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I moved up there, I think, let's see, this is 2016. I had just turned 15. And you had, at the time, it was varsity and you had prep. And prep, I think it goes all the way to 18 is your age out year. But prep was like the highest level. And I played varsity my whole time up there. And I always knew like I was probably good enough to play prep. I was just first year on the team and still kind of getting adjusted to that style of game. But varsity, I would compare it to like lower end AAA teams at the time, like in
True.
the States.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was great hockey, especially some of those like notable schools like Sean again, and Pursuit of Excellence was always a good one. But like our varsity team, we hung in there. We lost in the semifinal that year to
Damn.
Pursuit of Excellence. And I mean, they were just stacked, but I mean, we had a good team too. We were kind of like underdogs going into every game. And I think part of it is we were the only American team in the league,
Mm.
and we were new. So like, I think a lot of these Canadian teams really looked forward to playing us because
Yeah.
they wanted to smoke us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we hung in there, and our prep team my first year was, I want to say they were bottom 2 in the league. They just were struggling, but I never got to call up to prep, even though at the time, you guys know Rob Dumas used to play for the Steelheads.
Oh, yeah.
Name? Yeah, so he was actually I think he was the hockey ops guy up there at the time, and he was coaching a lot of our like varsity games. And the next year, he really wanted me to go back, but I mean, just talking about the league itself, sometimes I'd watch these prep games and like playoffs and watch all these guys who are WHL drafted, and I mean, probably some that were NHL drafted. The biggest name that sticks out that I remember when I played up there was Massimo Rizzo, who plays on DU.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he won the Player of the Year award, and I think he had to be probably 16 or maybe my age at
Damn.
the time, but he won it for the prep league, and I mean, that's playing against 18-year-olds. So
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks volumes, like how good some of these kids were, especially like if you can be young and dominate against all these older kids. But I mean, it's a heck of a league, and it's definitely growing with just the people that are coming out of it, especially like Bedard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so many
Yeah.
good players. But it was crazy because I mean, I only played AA, and I'd gone to like development camps for like USA Hockey. You know, they take the best kids out of each state, and you go there and you get a feel for like, oh, some of these kids are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Some are like from other states like New Mexico or like smaller hockey markets. You're kind of like, okay, you know, like single A, double A kind of players. But that was my first experience at high level hockey, and I got so much better because you practice every day
Yeah.
and you work out, and you have all the resources. And I mean, when I came back the next year to play in double A again, I just felt like my skating was just like,
Big time.
it just increased so much. I mean, you get in such good shape too.
Yeah, I remember I used to go up to a hockey camp every year in the summer. It was a skating camp out of Coeur d'Alene. Boris Dorzenko. I don't know if that rings a bell.
I know
but he
that
was
name. Yeah.
he was Austin Matthews' skating coach at the time. This is before Austin Matthews was in the NHL. And he was always like reaming us like, I'm coaching the next NHL #1 draft pick, Austin Matthews. Remember that name?
Really?
I'll like never forget about that. But I remember it was this Russian dude, and he wouldn't let us touch pucks for the whole first week. It was like a 2-week camp. Wouldn't let us touch pucks for the whole first week. But that was, I don't know, that was kind of my experience playing in Coeur d'Alene ever.
Was he from Coeur d'Alene, or was he?
No, he was from Russia, and
Well,
he
no,
would
no, sorry.
bring
Did he-
Russians
Did he
over
live
all the
in,
time.
Like he was training
No.
Matthews, so he like.
So he lived in Arizona. That's
Okay.
where I think that, or somewhere
Yeah.
down there. And he like he would get. I don't really know too much of their connection story.
Yeah.
But I remember like would always like on camp posters and stuff would always have Austin Matthews. But like at the time he was only really known in like American hockey, maybe a little bit in scouting eyes and stuff. But it was pretty cool. I mean they have a decent rink up there, I guess.
Talking about Frontier Ice Arena.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that rink. That was a good one. Gosh, I haven't been up to Coeur in a while, but I want to touch on Austin Matthews. I mean, you think about him; he's from Arizona.
I know.
To think about the kind of hockey market that probably used to be 20 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had the Coyotes, but I mean,
it's crazy.
They still weren't. Yeah,
it's insane where these incredible hockey players are turning up from now. Like,
yeah,
it's just the game is growing, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, especially like in the Western U.S. I feel like we're starting to see a lot of players that are coming out of markets that these NHL teams started out 20-something years ago. And I feel like it's going to continually get bigger. And I know we're going to touch on it a little bit later in this podcast, but I mean, college hockey, I feel like is going to really start growing out here. Mm-hmm. But just going back to Coeur d'Alene, would you say that semifinal game was like your most memorable moment while you were playing there? Or is there any moments that really stick out to you?
I would say for me, a big part of me, I was like homesick when I was up there. Like obviously I loved hockey, but
yeah,
I mean, when you're that young, some players like you talked about Dustin Wolf, like he always knew he was going to be a hockey player. And that was, but like for me as someone who was kind of always toying with the idea of like just not wanting it as much as I should have, I always was kind of like thinking my mind was kind of elsewhere. Yeah. But like, so like when I think about the games, it's weird because like you have some players that can tell you every detail of like any game of their career. Like you watch Gretzky talk and he was like, he can explain an entire game and like any goal he scored or anything like that. And like I'll look at like try to remember some of the things I did up there, and we played like 30 games in a year, and I can remember like certain moments, but like I think part of it is like I only remember certain things because like I wasn't fully in it, right? Yeah. So I remember like certain goals or like certain moments, and like honestly, a lot of the most memorable things happened off the ice.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Which is like the cool thing about hockey, is just hanging out with the boys.
Definitely.
But I mean, in terms of like on ice stuff, I mean, we actually had this coach, Brad Lukowich. Shout out Brad if you ever listen to this. But he won I think he won 2 Stanley Cups with the Devils and the Stars. And
wow,
I mean, he was a heck of a coach, but he had a little bit of a temper on him. And I remember in like one of our first games of the year, forget who we were playing, but I think the other team's coach started saying something to him, and there's kind of like a chirping match on the benches. And then after the game, like I think we lost, and it was at home in Coeur d'Alene, and we were kind of all skating off the ice, and kind of just turned my head, and I just see this tie flapping around, and I see Brad Lukowich trying to chase down the other team.
Oh my gosh!
And like, no. Yeah, he was a fired up guy, but he scrapped a lot in the NHL. So I mean, great person too,
That's sweet.
Awesome guy, and
Coeur d'Alene's not a bad place to chill out after your career.
Heck of a place. I mean, that program has grown so much too. I've just kind of watched them, and it's in really good hands now with Jeremy Milmock running it. But
that's sweet.
Yeah. So Brad, that was always fun seeing him kind of lose it a little bit. But I mean, looking back, yeah, you can really think about all these memories. Like I'm looking at just thinking about it now, and I mean, yeah, it was just a great time in my life, but it was so short. Like I was only out there for like 7 months.
Yeah. True. So going to non-hockey stuff, what other sports did you play growing up?
Oh, so I started out really young playing soccer, basketball, hockey, football, baseball. Those were like my main 5, and then narrowed it down to in high school I was playing baseball, football, hockey, and loved baseball. My dad was always my coach growing up, and he was a great coach, always pushed me to try really hard, but like super dedicated to baseball. I play a lot of catcher, and just loved hitting the ball. Like that's a fun sport. I still watch a lot of baseball and football. Played wide receiver, and like growing up played a couple different positions, but in high school I played wide receiver, and
nice.
That's a different thing. Like it's really nice playing for like your hometown. I'm sure you could say the same thing growing up in Montana. Like a lot of people will come to the games.
Oh yeah.
And like it just felt like for football, people really care in Boise about it. And I think I went to the second biggest high school behind Mountain View, I went to Rocky Mountain.
Okay.
And yeah, my senior year, we just had a stacked team, a couple guys who wanted to play Division I, and we went 12-0 and won the state championship on the blue turf.
That's sweet, dude.
Yeah, we primarily ran the ball. We had a stud running back, Nick Romano. He wanted to go to U of I, and he got a full ride up there. And
That's super sick.
yeah, I mean, I held my own. I was always like, I always had a lot of confidence myself, and I put more effort into like football, like trying to be like a starter, like my senior year,
Yeah.
than I feel like hockey at times. Just because,
True.
like, I mean, the thing with hockey, I always felt like I was a lot better at hockey in terms of natural, maybe talent, or just like the work I had put in my whole life. I was always on the ice a lot, and the game kind of came to me naturally. But with like football, even at like a high school level, at like a big school, I mean, you feel like your job is always like on the line.
Yeah.
There's always gonna
Yeah.
be like a kid who might be younger than you, or you're competing with someone in your grade who's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Big
there's
time.
a big school too. There's so many kids that are trying for the same spot. So, I just pushed myself really hard in the weight room that year, and I really worked hard. And I mean, I had a pretty good year, but we ran the ball a lot. And the crazy thing about like our team is we just like spread the ball so much to so many different players, like throwing wise. Like
Yeah.
no one was really like the star wide receiver besides
Yeah.
our running back. Just carried us a lot.
Dude, and football is like king in the U.S.
Yeah, it's king.
obviously.
I mean, people love
every,
it.
any
Yeah.
state, every state.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Minnesota, you could make a argument for hockey's
Yeah,
a little bit
for
bigger
sure.
and basketball in some states, but I mean, football is always going to take the
Yeah.
crown for most popular and in the city and high school and everything. And I totally feel you on that. I went to Bozeman High and it was way too big of a high school, and football was huge there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Super competitive. Like Will Disley came out of Bozeman High, tight end for the Seahawks, or I don't know where he's tight end now for, but yeah, I mean, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah, and like you look at like that rivalry between the Grizz and the Bobcats.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
they had College Game Day go there this year, and that
Oh,
place.
yeah.
Most of those
I went
games,
to
I feel
that.
like
Sick.
sell out. Like those
Yeah.
fans are so loyal for those
Yeah.
teams, and like I feel like part of me was just like I always liked the limelight with like the sport. Like I wanted to play football a lot too, and like
Yeah,
be known for it, and obviously there's a lot of people coming to those games and cheering you on, but you look back at the time, it's like that's what you care about. But then you look at like, well, if you pursue hockey, if it's something like you really want to do and you set your mind to it, you might be playing junior hockey in a town of like a couple hundred people.
yeah,
Even though it's high level, like, I mean, in the end, you could end up playing Division I in front of like a sold out,
Yeah.
arena, or even pro.
Thousands, yeah.
And like that's the bigger picture that I think I always struggled with as a kid, because I was just kind of like, I was always like in the moment for like what I cared about. And I mean, some guys are just like, I don't care where I play, I'm going, pro one day, or going
Yeah.
to the NHL.
yeah.
And it's not about like how many people are coming to those games. It's just because they want to play hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was that like coming in? I know you said football was kind of your main focus senior year. What was that like? Did you ever consider playing juniors, or did you ever want to go to another college? But what was kind of that outlook when you got out of high school looking like?
Yeah. So I mean, let's see. I went to Coeur as a sophomore, and then I came back, played AA. Had a really good time when I came back. We had a good team. We went on to AA nationals for I think Division III AA. So we're like, it's based on population.
Yeah.
So we were like,
Mhm.
we were playing against the smaller states, right? And we
Yeah,
ended up-
Montana's in that, yeah.
yeah, they are. And we ended up losing in the national championship game to
Oh, damn.
Delaware.
Oh.
And this was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Also, shout out my girlfriend. She's from Wisconsin, big Packers fan. So just want
True.
to shout her out if you listen to this. Love you.
Aw.
But no, so that was a trip. But unfortunately, in that game, we ended up blowing a 5-1 lead and lost 7-6. And
Damn.
that was the second national.
That's brutal,
That was the
dude.
second national title game I ever lost, because when I was in my 14 year, we had nationals in Salt Lake, and we lost to the Portland Winterhawks in overtime. Kid went coast to
Damn.
coast and scored
Damn.
3-2.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, my buddy was talking about John Driscoll, who plays for why am I based on the
Sacred
name?
Heart,
Sacred Heart.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I think he had both our goals in that game, but just tough because
That's so tough,
to
dude.
lose the one and then battle all the way back 4 years later, and it's like it's a national championship. It doesn't matter if it's for the smaller
Yeah.
states, but that was probably the most heartbreaking moment of my hockey sports career.
Damn, dude.
Did have 2 goals in that game.
That's so tough.
But like, I just remember like after the game, like they're handing out medals and stuff, and they want like an individual picture of you with your medal, and I had my silver medal, and I'm just in the picture. I'm just sobbing my eyes out. I can't even look at
Dude,
just destroyed.
that was
pictures.
yeah, that was the worst. Like,
Yeah.
I remember parents would always want to take pictures of the second place trophy or the second place medal, and you're just like destroyed. I remember now looking back on those photos, it's kind of funny. It's like,
It's
oh
so
my God,
funny,
look at how pissed I was. And it hits me. I'm like, I remember how pissed I was
It
too.
makes you mad thinking about it though, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
dude.
I've always been a person to like hate losing more than I enjoy winning.
Yeah.
Like, and it could be in like different aspects of life. But to touch back on that second national loss, I played with my brother that year too.
Oh, that's sweet.
So that was cool. We went all the way playing together. We never really got to play together that much. But to touch on that, so we had like the early game that day, and then they had like Division II AA championship and then Division I. So we watched both games because we had a late flight. And I'll never forget in like the Division II game, forget who was playing, but this video went viral of this kid getting his silver medal and he just chucks it in the crowd. Like, so I saw it with my own two eyes, and then it got posted everywhere. And like, I mean, I don't think you should ever do that, but it was pretty funny watching.
Yeah.
Because then some kid for Sweden, I'm pretty sure, did that in the
That's
World Juniors.
crazy.
He
Yeah.
got his medal and just launched it in the crowd.
Yeah.
But I remember watching like the Division I AA championship. That game too it was basically this club team that was all kids from Michigan that played like high school, and obviously high school is pretty competitive.
Yeah.
In Michigan,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
they all had different colored buckets and stuff, and like they were just disgusting. Like they won. Forgot who they played, but I mean, you look at like best AA team from Michigan compared to like our game, Delaware and Idaho.
Yeah.
I mean, leaps and bounds difference in skill.
Yeah.
Like those kids are out there
Big time.
doing insane stuff.
So yeah, going back to your decision to play, hockey at Boise State, what was that like? Like I said, do you ever consider juniors, or do you ever consider not just hanging the skates up, or do you ever consider going to another place besides Boise State too? Because I know a lot of Boise kids go to U of I. So.
Yeah, so I mean, like my senior year, I like thought about maybe I'll go play like small school football. Like Montana Western was like a school I looked at.
Oh yeah.
I was like, well,
go Dogs.
I really want to go live in like a small town and just play football where maybe I won't start. And then I always knew Boise State had like a club team. I didn't really know what club hockey was in college at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like looking at their record and I'm like, oh my God, like this team's nasty. Like they dominate. And so I was like, shoot, I might as well just go there and in-state tuition. But in terms of like junior hockey, when I moved back, obviously we know hockey costs a lot of money no matter where you play, right?
Big time.
Yeah.
So it's like if I were to go play juniors, I'd probably have to go play like NA3 or somewhere where you're actually paying money to play, because like the big name juniors like USHL, they pay for it, even the NAL. Shout out to Vietnam. I never played in it, but I've got a lot of beauties that have played in it. What a league. Especially my roommate Camden, he played in it for the Austin Bruins in Minnesota. But my parents were always kind of like, you went to Coeur d'Alene, didn't work out. We don't really want to pay for this. You go play junior, and who knows, like, start college late. But I always thought about it, but I never really had like the biggest desire to go play. But looking back, I probably would have, because that would have been a crazy experience. And some guys are late bloomers, or maybe they find their passion for the game a little late. I'd say I always had that passion, but some guys, they start out in lower level junior and they work their way up to the show. So, I always thought about it. But in terms of Boise State, I mean, I remember sitting in math class my senior year, and I was like pretty 90% sure I'm going to Boise State. And I think I enrolled already too. And like looking at their record, I'm like, they're playing all these teams I see Boise State football play.
Yeah.
So I was curious, like what that talent level would be like, or what that would be like at all. And it's not Division I, but I was like, I still want to play hockey, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I went to the spring evaluation camp in March of my senior year, and the coaches at the time were Lloyd Ayers and Todd Cunningham, and they're both locals who I think their sons both had played for the team.
Yeah.
And sorry, what were you gonna say?
The goalie,
Kyler Ayers.
Kyler, yeah.
Yeah, he was phenomenal goalie, great person too. But his dad Lloyd was the head coach, and I went to the camp and had a good camp, and they're like, yeah, we like what we saw from you, like, stay in shape and come out in August and try out. And so school came around, and I was still living at home as a freshman, which that's like another thing I do regret, living at home as a freshman in college. If you get a chance to like move into the dorms, no matter if you're from the area, I think it's important to really like get out of the house.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to do that until my sophomore year, but I tried out for the team in August, made the team, and had my first action of ACHA hockey in Bellingham, Washington. We played the Western Washington Vikings, and it was from there.
What was your first year like?
It was pretty fun. I'd say we traveled quite a bit. Like we went to Bismarck, North Dakota. We went to Phoenix or Tempe, sorry, to go play like Arizona State's club team. But it was a blast. Like sometimes those games would be so high level, and I played with my line mates at the time were Eric Pinsky, who's like the all-time leader in Boise State points. He's from San Jose. I don't know if you know him, right?
No, I knew him. He used to coach my brother.
Yeah, so he's working as a video tech for, I think he's in the Sharks organization, but
he's Barracuda.
I think he's Barracuda, right? Yeah.
His
That's sweet.
My old coach Nick, he's I think the video director for San Jose.
Yeah.
And him and Pinsky were always super close.
Yeah, it's like Pinsky.
I think he flew out. Nick flew out for Pinsky's graduation.
Yeah, that would make sense. Hell of a player. But like playing with like the older guys at the time, you're so young as a freshman. You're like, oh, I have a couple more years of this. Like, more just like enjoying it at first. But like I kind of found my passion for hockey once I got to college again.
Yeah,
really.
Like I never enjoyed the game as much as I did playing for Boise State.
That's sweet.
And like there were some times where it was the funnest times I ever had playing hockey, like both off the ice and on the ice, and it was awesome. Like I look back on it, and there's so many memories that I just couldn't trade for anything. So.
That's sweet.
Freshman year was pretty just like entry level, and then COVID came around, obviously shut everything down. But my freshman year, we went on to our division or our conference at the time was the Pac-8, so like the Pac-12. So we played Oregon in the final, and I mean they were a hell of a team. They beat us I think 3-0 in the final, and I mean they had guys who probably could have played D3 and stuff like that. But
that's sweet.
Yeah, they were really good teams. So that was fun, and that was my freshman year. I had a pretty good year. Played first line right wing, and had probably
freshman year first line.
I mean, yeah, I think at the time, like,
Sweet.
I don't know, like, I always had a lot of confidence myself as a player, but, like, I adjusted well to that level, and, I mean, it's a physical league. Like,
really?
I mean, it can be a calm show at times. Obviously, there's no fighting, but there are guys out there, like, trying to take your head off.
Yeah.
And, it was, like, welcome to the league. It was fun, but I'd say the culture on the team my freshman year was entirely different than the culture when I finished playing at Boise State.
Really?
Oh, it completely changed.
Like for the better?
For the better. I mean, yeah.
Or
like,
for the worse?
I'd say record-wise, like, pretty similar to my freshman year, like how we ended up.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I'd say as my time went on in college, the team became a lot closer because my freshman year, like, we would all hang out, but it didn't seem like the tightest knit group of guys. And then as time went on, like, we really tried to encourage more off-ice stuff and, like, hanging out and, you know, partying together, obviously, and stuff like that. And we had a lot of good times. And like big credit to my roommate Camden Gallagher, because he was always the one, you know, kind of organizing that stuff off the ice.
Definitely.
And I just think it really helped the team.
Yeah. That's funny. I did the spring camp because what year are you, a 2000 or an 01?
I'm an 01.
Okay, yeah. I was a year before, and I like how you said that you found your passion. I like lost my passion when coming. And just like for me, I mean, I've never really been the biggest guy either. And I feel like when I came, like it was a lot of these transfers from playing in the Null, and they came over and were freshmen, but they were like 21, 20 years old, huge guys. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I didn't, but I kind of wish I did. But
yeah. What was that level of play like? Was it a lot different than, I mean, obviously high school, you said it was a lot more physical. Was there ever a point where you were like, damn, is it a higher level play, or what would you say?
Higher level compared to like high school?
Or, I mean, just in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's guys out there that like, there's a slim few that, and like, especially we were ACHA D2, so there's also ACHA D1.
True.
Some of those guys out there probably could have played Division 1. Obviously, I don't think anyone in the league is like, could have been like, made it to the NHL. Maybe, you never know. But I mean, even the level I was playing at in D2, I mean, there were some guys out there that had so much skill and could dominate, and had played juniors like maybe Null, or even, I doubt there's any like major junior, but a lot of Null, like NA3, just other junior leagues, and like there was so much skill. And I feel like as the years went on, the skill in the league grew even more.
Yeah.
Like, more kids are like, you know, I'll just go play like club hockey at like a 6 school, like Boise State, or any like the big school, like Arizona State, even though they have D1, or that's a bad example, but like UW, right? Washington.
Yeah, or like even those teams like NC State and like all those teams.
Oh yeah, they're playing like.
I feel like in the
games.
South, like
even the South, like Alabama,
like, big
like,
time club hockey
insane.
is like,
and like South
sweet.
Carolina, like cock hockey, like they've grown that brand so much, and like, it's insane. Like it's just, there's so much potential in all these schools to like make the move to like go to Division 1.
Yeah,
it costs a lot of money, and like you got to fund it. Because I mean, look at Boise State; they couldn't even have their baseball team.
I know, we were
Like,
so
obviously, COVID hurt
close,
that a lot.
dude.
Yeah,
But they make a lot of these schools make most of their money off of football or like
Basketball,
right? And
Yeah.
they can't afford to be like, we're gonna fund this insanely expensive sport,
Yeah.
potentially build an arena, hire all these people to do ice maintenance and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I mean, playing at like the local community rink, and then sometimes we'd play downtown where the Steelheads play, which would be awesome. It was a trip, man. Like I would say the coolest thing at the start of my career, freshman year, we'd go play at CenturyLink Arena, I guess Idaho Central now.
Yeah.
There would be like maybe a couple hundred people there on a good night. Like we have our Meals on Wheels game, which was like once a year for charity, and
A lot of
we
people
draw
show
a
up.
big crowd.
Yeah.
But towards the end of it, like we were promoting our games, and I mean, you just saw more and more people coming to these games. And I just remember this last year, these last 2 years, I should say, like playing University of Washington and University of Montana at that rink. I mean, it's packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
big
people
time.
they're loving it, and I just hope to see that for the future of the program, and hopefully like the school at least makes the move to either give them some more money or like build the program. And you look at it now, you got Daryl Hay as the head coach this year.
Yeah, heard about that.
Steelheads legend, won a Kelly Cup. And I mean, when we were talking about influential coaches in my career, that's another one right there that
True.
was just a phenomenal hockey mind and just a great person. Like would always push you and always just, he could blow up. Yeah. And he just expected a lot out of you. And if you didn't bring it, you know, it's why waste your time showing up if you're not going to just try to get better.
Isn't his father like a really legendary head coach?
Don Hay. So Don Hay, I think he still might be the head coach at Kamloops unless he transitioned into a different role, but he's coached in the WHL. He's coached for Hockey Canada. And
That's
I
sweet.
mean, I'm pretty sure he's got to be one of the like most winningest coaches in WHL history or
That's sweet.
Hockey Canada or something. But I actually met him for the first time walking to men's league.
Oh, really?
Like last month. I was walking out of there, I saw Daryl, and first thing he says is, "Jonesy, I want you to meet my dad." And I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you, Don. Like I've heard so much about you," and chatted
sweet.
for a little bit. And he said he was still in Kamloops.
Damn, that's
but
really
I
cool.
know he was a head coach there for a while, but you'd like to think, I mean, obviously for Daryl growing up in that environment, and Daryl's an NHL draft pick, right? Like had a hell of a pro career.
Yeah.
Just being able to take in all that stuff from his dad, like hockey knowledge and just the work ethic you need to be a pro hockey player. So now I think Daryl, coaching the program is just gonna be in such good hands, because the program always kind of struggled to, in its club hockey, just to have that like high level coach.
Yeah.
Because obviously a high level coach, you're gonna want some form of salary, and not to say that like all coaches are like salary driven, but it's nice looking at the program now that, because Daryl would be an assistant coach for us my whole career, and he'd run a lot of our practices, right? Like without him, our practices would struggle, and he would actually implement a lot of things that could make our team better. And I'm really excited to see what he does this time, full time this year as a coach.
Yeah, you guys had a sellout this year, right?
For like the Montana
Technically,
game?
yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we lost that game.
Damn.
I know.
That's sweet though, dude. I mean, that's a
night.
huge step. I mean, you got to think what it was like for your freshman year, and then to think that a game would sell out.
Yeah.
Just like promoting
that's
it
pretty
alone,
cool.
like and it helped so much having you too, like, as like our inside guy the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, things kind of went where they did, but
yeah, we don't need to get into that, but
skip.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, this last 2 years especially, we had our game against University of Washington, which was like a sellout, and I think I got kicked out of that game for fighting, it was not a fight. Like sometimes I feel like ejections and refs can really just like,
dude,
like I got kicked out of that game for like a shoving match, and I mean, it's like,
that's
my grandparents
ridiculous.
were in town and stuff from out of state. But this last year was my senior night, and I mean, you look forward to that game, and you kind of build these little rivalries with these other schools, and
Definitely.
that's any sport. And so we had played Montana already in Missoula, and I think we split with them. And I mean, that was a sick game up there too, because I mean that rink's pretty packed. Like
Glacier rink or something.
I think it's Glacier, yeah. And a lot of their students show up and they're chirping, and like I think we lost the first game and won the second night. But yeah.
Yes. Side note, I absolutely hate the Montana Grizzlies. I grew up a Montana State Bobcats fan.
Oh yeah.
I've been to a lot of Cat Grizz games, hockey even too, which are a good time. But yeah, I hate the Grizz. I hate everything about University of Montana. They have a really cool football stadium. I will say that. I've been to some Cat Grizzlies there, but yeah, go Cats all the way. FTG though, but yeah.
You see this shirt though, Gal?
I did see that, dude. Yeah, what's that all about?
Oh, I stole this from my teammate Micah Crum.
Nice, dude.
Montana, so I stole it because I had to wear a shirt one night.
Where's Micah from?
Micah is from, I want to say he was maybe born in Billings or somewhere in Montana, but he grew up in Green River, Wyoming. Like,
okay.
mostly.
True.
Yeah, he's a Montana kid, so.
Nice.
Yeah, but he's a hell of a hockey player, too.
Did you guys play BYU at ICCU? I remember.
We did, yeah. So my junior year, because I actually fifth year in college, but only played hockey 4 years. My sophomore year, we didn't have hockey or anything because of COVID. It was all online, even school. Which is actually how we met because I rushed the fraternity.
Oh, yeah.
And that is
shout out D-Sig.
Whole another chapter of, shout out D-Sig. Whole another chapter of my life that
we don't need to get into it too.
Absolutely one of the best decisions I ever made. Met so many people. But BYU actually had a solid team. Like, I mean, we played them my junior year for our Meals on Wheels charity game, and I think we lost 3-1. But
wow.
God, they had a great program. Like, I think the school actually shut it down because they didn't like how the hockey team represented the school's image.
Really?
Granted, if you guys know a little backstory behind BYU, it is an LDS school.
Yeah.
So, they obviously have a different kind of view on things, and I don't see how the team didn't represent the school. I didn't really know anything internally about the team other than they had a good hockey team and they beat us on our home ice.
I feel like they got a lot of non-LDS kids probably to play. That's probably what I would guess. I'm surprised there's not a D1 school in Utah
for hockey.
Yeah, like, I mean, you got BYU, Utah State, Utah. I mean, I just feel like it's a pretty big area, and it's pretty similar to Denver, which has 2 at least D1 schools. I mean,
we could see with Utah now.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I just want to add too, like, obviously we transitioned from the Pac-8 to the Mountain West Conference, which had a lot of those Utah schools, but like Utah State and Logan, shout out Logan, great city. It's more of a town, but I mean, they have an unbelievable arena. I believe I don't know if the school owns the arena, but it is their home rink, and they practice, have their own locker room. It's a great locker room. Like, it looks like a major junior locker room or a college locker room, and they put on a great show every year and get a lot of fans. And even like University of Utah, I'd say those two probably. Even Weber State has a great program, great rink too. So they definitely care a lot about hockey in Utah, and I expect that they'll probably have a Division I team in the next 10 years.
I know, that's what I was saying. I mean, they just got an NHL team. They've had a ECHL team. I feel like they've got to make that jump. One of those schools does, because I feel like if one of those schools does it, they're going to make so much money off of it.
Oh yeah,
you know, like people are going to go to those games, especially BYU. I just know BYU fans are diehard for any sport. So I feel like that would be a good move for them. Which we will get into this later. Before we get into that, I guess, was there any moments, I know you don't need to go into too many specifics, but was there any moments at Boise State that stood out to you? Any brawls, any games? I know that you had that classic goal that went viral when you were taunting the bench.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I always think I overlook a lot of things, but there's a couple, and I'd say like favorite memory, like on ice, was my junior year. We played the University of Oregon in an outdoor game in Bend. Bend is a really cool town. They have a nice outdoor rink, and we were such an underdog going into that game. We were having a tough year, kids with grades being bad, and had a bad goalie situation. We actually had, I think we had like a 28-year-old like emergency goalie who was going to school to play for us, named Wyatt. He did everything he could, but
that's wild.
So we went into that game, and I think I had a goal in the first, and I was selling pretty hard. I hate Oregon. Like that was like your Montana State for you. It's Oregon for me, and that was a lot of it because of football growing up watching Boise State. But had a goal in the first, and then had a goal in the second, and like every time I scored, I was just so fired up, like
hell yeah, dude.
Selling, and then I would say my in the third period I think we were tied, and then I scored to get the hat trick in the start of the third, and that was probably the hardest I ever sellied in my life, just screaming top of my lungs, like just so much going through my body. And that's where I can really confidently say my passion for the game like came back, is just those moments like that. I remember when I scored that goal, even though we actually did end up losing that game, I was just looking around the crowd, like pretending I had a hat on my helmet, like throwing it and like screaming at people and like throwing up like the jersey. And I saw this guy wearing like a Denver Broncos hat in the crowd. So I kept pointing at him to like throw his hat, and I was just like, let's go. And he just like was emotion.
Dude,
He was just like staring at me like, and I was like, well, maybe he's an Oregon fan.
That's sick. That's like the Winter Classic for you guys, though.
It was like the Winter Classic. So we did that for 2 years, like played Utah State there 1 year too.
That's cool.
Yeah, unfortunately we never beat Oregon at that game. But in terms of like another memory that sticks out, more of like along the scary side of things is my true senior year, like second game of the year, I actually took a skate blade to the neck.
Yeah.
If you remember that?
No, I remember that.
So that was pretty
I was
wild.
like, holy shit. Yeah, dude. I remember you sending me the video and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, dude, you almost died straight up.
Just millimeters from death. And I look back on it and
that's crazy.
Still, I wonder, like, what in the world happened. Like, I do know what happened. I just
walk us through that.
Yeah, so it was like the second game of the year. I had like my family in town. We were playing at the Haley Ice Arena, which is just Sun Valley, Idaho, if you guys know where that is. It's kind of a resort town. To you listeners, I know you guys know Sun Valley. They're playing Montana State there, and they're a good team too. That's another program I haven't mentioned, but like they were ranked #1 in the country like the last 2 years at one point. And they have a heck of a coach, heck of a program. But we were playing them, and I think we were losing. Like,
Dave Weaver,
Yeah,
Dave Weaver's really good.
His stepson might be what's his name? He played for Chicago and
Lafferty.
Sam Lafferty.
Sam Lafferty,
yeah. I know they're related. I don't know if it's a stepson or what.
Really good coach, though.
Yeah, really good coach.
He coached me.
They have a great team. Their goalie was phenomenal. But I was going for like a loose puck in the slot, and as I went to take a shot, I like somehow lost all of my footing and started sliding. And as I was sliding, one of their defenders kind of like fell over top of me, like tabletop, when you tabletop someone.
Yeah.
And so it all happened so fast. But as I was, planting my right foot to turn left to go back check, he was just kind of like just about totally falling over me, and his foot like kicked up as I turned, and his skate blade just caught my neck. And instantly, like, I knew, like, whoa, like, skate blade, that felt weird, like, that felt weird. So like, no blood coming out or anything like you've seen that Malarchuk video or anything like that. So I knew maybe something was wrong, but I had no pain or like anything. I was just kind of like instant like fight or flight response. So I skated to the bench. I was like touching my neck. I wasn't wearing a neck guard. So yeah, you kids wear a neck guard. That's probably smart. Especially what's happened the last couple of years.
Yeah.
In England,
holy crap.
Yeah. Historically with the game, it's always something you look at. You're like, that'd never happen to me. And then it does.
Yeah.
So as I was skating to the bench, I started feeling my neck, and I was like, that feels kind of weird. It feels like there's like a hole in my neck.
Yeah.
I was like, that just doesn't feel right. So then I get to the
gosh.
bench, and I'm like looking at my coach, which was Lloyd at the time, and I'm like, am I all right? And I was like kind of freaking out internally, and everyone's just kind of like staring at me, like they don't know what to say. Like even Lloyd looked at me, and I'd never seen him look at me like that, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, you need to get the trainer. I'm like, oh, it might just be a small cut.
Jeez.
So the trainer runs over, Kaylee, shout out Kaylee. She taped me up a couple times, and I mean, great person. Always nice to have a trainer on site too, no matter what sport.
Was she like a Boise State student?
Yeah, she was the club sports trainer, like for all the club sports teams.
That's sweet.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, she's a great person. So yeah, she came over to the bench, had to walk around and like looked at my neck and like, we got to get you like off the ice right now. Like, that's not good. And I'm like, it cannot be this bad. Like I'm talking, I feel like I could go back in the game.
Yeah.
And she's like, you need to stop talking because every time you talk, the cut on your neck opens up more and more just from the skin expanding.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to get stitched up and I'll go back out. So we walk around and she like puts like she didn't have stitches, unfortunately. And she's like, it has to get stitched. And I was like, I don't think it does. I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And she's looking at it and she's like, puts on like, just kind of like the wrap around my neck. But at first she's like, I need to take a picture of this real quick for like, I don't know, I guess teaching or something like that to the student trainers.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then finally, I don't think I ever saw the picture until I was out of the hospital, but she takes the pictures and then she wraps my neck up pretty good. We get to the hospital and, which was like a 30-minute drive to Sun Valley. And my parents actually were the ones that drove me. So I was in like half gear. And still, I know I'm fine at this point, but get to the hospital and I never forget, like the lights were off in the hospital and like there was like no one there, and I just walk up to the front desk and I was like in full gear. I'm like, hey, like I just took a hockey skate to the neck, like I probably need to get seen.
Oh my gosh.
She's just like, okay, it'll be a second. I was like, okay. And so we get in the room, doctor looks at me and takes the tape off and he's looking at it and he's just like shocked. Like doctor's like, wow, like that is about 1 millimeter from your carotid artery.
Yeah.
Like I could probably almost see your carotid artery. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it is pretty bad. So he starts cleaning it out a little bit, and he's like looking at it, and he's like, well, we're going to get you stitched up, or maybe I think he got me stitched up at first. Then I had to go get like a whatever scan they do where they inject you with dye. Yeah, have you guys done that? They inject you with this dye to make sure there's nothing going on internally, because if there's like an internal cut, the like dye will like go to a place it shouldn't.
Interesting.
So that was weird. I think it was I don't know what it was called, but
I feel like I've heard of that.
When they give you that, it makes you feel like you piss your pants. Like they gave me they warn you too, and I was like, okay. And so he injects me with this thing, and it just feels like the warmest feeling. You feel like you literally pee everywhere, like for like 2 seconds, and then scanned me, and everything was fine. But ended up getting 7 stitches. Basically told a couple times I'm lucky to be alive, which I look back on and I am.
Yeah,
it was just nuts. And like
That's
he
so
was cleaning it
crazy.
out, he was so astonished because it was just about as close as you can get to death as possible.
Yeah.
And you'd like to
so
think, I mean,
sketch.
when that happened to Malarchuk and other guys, you have so little time to react to like an artery being severed like that.
Yeah.
And I would have 100% bled out on the ice, or at least in the arena, because
Yeah, especially
no
in Sun
ambulance.
Valley.
Sun Valley's 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
I look back on it, if I would have got my artery cut, I would have died in front of my parents on the ice. And you just go into a game like that not thinking that could ever happen.
No.
That's so nuts, dude.
Very thankful. Very thankful
Yeah.
that I was okay, but I look back and it was just probably one of the craziest things that ever happened.
Do you wear a neck guard now?
I did for a little that year, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And now I don't. I should. And it sounds like after what happened to me, I should be wearing one at all times, but
I mean, adult hockey is a little bit different.
It's no contact, and like it's a little different. But even like towards the end of this last hockey year, I didn't wear a neck guard once, like for BSU.
Damn.
And even with that happening to the guy who played in England and that he got cut and died, you know, and that video was like something.
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys
that
saw
was-
that. That was not a hockey move.
No.
And just looking back, I mean, what happened to me was
I
was just
know.
lucky. I was just very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that whole skate incident in England. It's
Vicious.
It's horrifying. It's a horrifying video to watch. It's like one of the most gruesome sports videos I think out there.
I got stepped on once on my toe. We were goofing around in the locker room and we were turning the lights on and off for whatever reason. Thought that was a good idea, and I had my skates off. And it was like the one day I actually changed pretty quick. I was usually a slow. I was be the last one out of the locker room always, but I had my skates off and we were turning the lights on and off, and I was like goofing around, and I luckily didn't get stepped on the toe, but his skate, like, I think he like stepped and like sliced my toe, and it freaked me the hell out.
Yeah.
I was very lucky that my toe didn't come off, and it was like, it's just this. It's so crazy, like how dangerous.
Oh gosh,
really,
knives on your feet.
Yeah,
right?
knives on your feet.
Ouch.
And then crazy thing is, I remember like after I got cut, like obviously the scar at first, and, like, the stitches, but you know those skates are so sharp, and it's just like a sharp blade. You can't even really notice that.
Yeah.
Usually you'd think like there's a massive scar. But,
Yeah.
I mean they're just so sharp, and you never think it's gonna happen to you, or I mean, could happen to anywhere on your body. Really, guys get cut all the time, but the throat is like you think of just
The
as, like
last
the
point.
death sentence of that.
Yeah.
I mean, even you get your leg stepped on or something. Like Evander Kane got his wrist skated over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty scary because that probably messed him up.
Yeah,
but
that could screw you up
I'd
big
probably
time.
take the wrist over like
A neck.
neck.
A neck is just like you're screwed a lot of the time. So obviously that one, I know I've already brought this up, but that one goal that went viral. Walk us through that.
Okay.
What was going on in that game? Was there, some trash talk before that goal happened, or what was, or did you just do it spontaneously?
So the funny thing about that, there was absolutely no trash talk about
Really?
that at all. So that actually, I believe, was the first game I played after the neck injury.
Okay.
So like no, not the first one actually. No, because I actually played like the following weekend with stitches in at home. I just wore a neck guard, and that was kind of scary. Just like
Yeah, that's super
you're
sketch.
freaked out. But yeah, I played the next weekend at home, and like this was like the week after, so played a couple games after the injury. But this everyone always gave me shit for this on the team too, because the goal was so meaningless. Like I had a goal that game already, but we were at University of Washington. I don't think we'd ever played in Seattle before, and we were at the Seattle Kraken practice arena, which is a really nice facility.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a good team. They had a couple really good players. But the game, I think we were winning like 5-3 maybe, and there was like a minute left, and I got the puck, and
Oh my
I
gosh.
just I think I walked the guy and then went to the slot and scored, and my momentum was carrying me like along the half wall, like by their bench to like go back to our bench, and I was going really fast. And just when I scored it, I was just like one of those. It's kind of like talking about like the Oregon goal. I just all that adrenaline through me, and like just happy to be alive and do that again. Like that feeling of doing something like that. I just for some reason you kind of like black out in those moments, but I like. My mind went to, I guess we're gonna go knee drop, shoot
yeah, it's a pretty sick celly if you guys haven't seen it.
Shoot the arrow in front of their bench, and then as I like shot the arrow, I just remember like being on one knee, sliding by their bench. And I'm not one to like, I guess in college I was one to taunt like the other team and do shit like that, because I'd be lying if I said I didn't. You gotta have more respect for the game, but you gotta live a little too.
Yeah.
And I remember going by their bench and like looking at all of them, and like my hands for some reason came up like this, like that emoji. You ever seen this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like for some reason, for some reason after I shot the arrow, my hand was here, and like in my mind, I was like, I want to flip off this bench. Even though there was no trash talk. Like that's what I thought I was gonna do. But for some reason, it was more like in my mind at the moment, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So I did like a John Cena, like one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler Kendrick, our good friend who does video for the Steelheads, managed to capture it. And after the game, like I was so pumped to score, and I'm sure the other team wanted to kick my ass out in the parking lot. And then we ended up losing the next game to him too, which was probably deserved. And I got a little shit for that too from the team.
Yeah.
Like the boys were not.
That's so funny.
The boys were kind of like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But yeah, Kendrick came up to me after the game. He was like, dude, you gotta see this video, and showed it to me. And like I told him, I was like, yeah, like that'd be sick. We should post it maybe. And I definitely said we should post it.
Yeah.
And then he just caught traction, and then yeah, I think Bar Down posted it.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely went a little bit viral in the hockey community.
The comments on that. Like,
yeah, what was that like? I saw some people were like, oh, he's going to get killed next shift and
God.
stuff.
People were saying just they're hating on it so much, just like if he was on my team, he'd be running laps outside the rink, or like,
oh my gosh.
I hope the other team just cross-checked him from behind, like broke his neck. And then you see a lot of like the negatives, and then here and there you'd see some guy be like, what a sick celly.
Yeah, definitely.
Look at that view.
That's all the internet though. Like that's pretty much
dude, we've
comment section.
Yeah, we pissed some people off during the playoffs.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not a big Oilers fan, and they went pretty far. And oh my gosh, we got some hatred.
Like one more thing too is like with college hockey, at least in club, I mean there is fighting, you can fight, but like junior hockey you can fight, and it's you don't get like suspended really. I don't think. You do that, and I look back, I didn't play junior. If you do that in a league like the Null, or unless you're like, if you're like going D1, you can't really, if you're just some guy and you do that in one of those junior hockey leagues, there is a 99% chance someone is going to beat the absolute shit out of you. The next
definitely.
game, or in the parking lot, or something like that. So.
Yeah, did you get chirped at all? Like any other following games from that? Did anyone?
Yeah, I mean, the next game in Washington, I would get chirped a lot. And, I wore 93, and I would always get called 9-3. So, like, I just always got chirped. Like, boys, I mean, yeah, like, people saw it in club hockey.
Definitely.
So, here and there, I never, no, like, real chirps from, like, random teams. But I think people, like, kind of, not to sound, like, egotistic, but I think people kind of knew who I was because of that.
True.
To an extent. And, I mean, Boise State's a pretty, like known like standout school, not in terms of like popularity, but like you just kind of know Boise State.
Yeah. Definitely.
From football, especially.
Like we have our own colors and like the logo and the blue turf. Like people know about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got chirped a lot, both from my teammates and here and there from like other.
Yeah. So I know you said it's a gong show of a league. Is there any
ACHA? I won't say it's a gong show of a league. I can't.
Not saying that.
It's not a gong show of a league.
Okay.
Because there is some serious talent in that league, and it's good hockey. But it can be.
It can be. Yeah. But was there ever a moment where there's anything out of the blue, or I mean, you don't have to go into too many specifics or not even tell it at all, but was there any stories that were like, what the hell is going on? Brawls or stuff on the ice or ejections or anything like that?
Oh, I mean, I really got to think about this one for a second. There was nothing crazy that like stood out where you see like, I mean, there was a couple like brawls per se where guys
or fans guys
still have their gloves on. I mean, there probably is. I'm just wondering. There's so much that happens I can forget, but nothing like crazy sticks out. I mean, you'd have fans here and there like chirping and on ice stuff happen. Like I'm just looking back, and
what was the loudest like barn you played in? Like a home place, not like a
neutral site.
Yeah, not a neutral site, but like a home.
Dude, Utah State. I mean, it's called Eccles Ice Arena, and it probably fits like maybe 1,000, 2,000 maybe. And it sold out one time. And this was my junior year. It sold out probably a couple times, but like one time we played there and it was sold out, like 100% standing room only. And we were playing them and we actually won this game, I'm pretty sure. We played there a couple times, but my junior or senior year, one time I just remember it was one of those years we could have won or lost, but they were doing like their fight song, and it's a pretty like narrow barn, like the roof's pretty low and like it just gets loud. I mean, dude, it felt like I was in like a semi-pro ring. Like when they were doing that fight song and when they would score, oh, it would just get electric in there.
That's
and,
pretty crazy.
The students were like behind, they would be shaking our glass and like, they
Damn.
would, like I look back on those moments and like, I just remember being in the moment and like looking around and I'd be like, wow, this is so cool to be here.
Yeah,
right now.
definitely.
I mean, from now, like looking at it now, I'm like, I wish I could be back in that moment. Just like analyzing just like where I'm at, the atmosphere, and how much people are just going crazy for a club hockey game in college.
Yeah.
Big time.
So
I mean,
cool.
yeah, with that transition, I feel like college hockey's just grown so much across the country, whether it's club, whether it's D1, D3. I mean, what do you see the future of hockey at Boise State? Do you think they could ever go D1? I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but I mean, do you think there's at all a future for that?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I really think there is. Hopefully, I think the football team affects the school a lot. So if the football team's good and they're making more money, and like basketball has been a lot better lately too. So I think the school, when they have good sports teams, they want to promote that.
Yeah.
Hockey is obviously kind of smaller in a state like Idaho, but obviously the program with Daryl running it now, and I just know the roster from the outside looking in, and like I know a lot of guys I played with still playing. It is going to be a hell of a hockey team this year.
Really?
I would argue that this Boise State team this year will be the best team that's ever played blue and orange.
That's really sick.
And with Daryl being the coach he is, and all the assistants he's hired, and all the resources, I mean, I'd like to think I heard something about like a 10-year plan where at 10 years from now, they would like there to be a D1 team.
That's so sick.
It all comes down to, at least in my own opinion, you gotta consistently be dominant and win, like Montana State has done.
Yeah.
You gotta have a coach who's like, able to do that, and you gotta recruit, and they've done a good job of all that. But I say if the team can dominate at the level they're at some point they're gonna want to move up to ACHA D1.
Yeah, what's that process like? How do you go from D2 to D1?
I think you have to apply, but like you just have to have a certain amount of, I mean, I don't know like the back
wins and stuff. Yeah,
there's some things you have, like obviously you could probably look into it and you can find it out. But you got to be a good team, and you got to be able to compete with like those ACHA D1 teams, like UNLV, sick program, and a lot of those schools like they have guys that can play D3 or even D1.
Yeah.
But like the school is gonna have to give Boise State some money because it is a self-funded organization. The school only gives us like a fraction of money, and not bashing on the school here, but it's the truth. Like you guys need to give more money to.
Yeah, come on, Boise State, give more money.
Sports, realistically, but like we fundraise all the money and like to get more jerseys and like all sorts of stuff and like flyers for our games. It goes down to everything. And yeah,
you guys do have sick unis.
Yeah, sure. I mean, oh dude, it's so much potential. And we just started like really
blue ice.
Blue ice would be cool. I mean,
I don't know if that would work.
Yeah,
an outdoor game on the blue turf,
dude. Yeah, 100%.
Like North Carolina, but I want to say this team needs to dominate and get more and more talent coming in, cycling through, and then I'd say in 5 years they would want to be an ACHA D1 program and prove themselves at that level again, and hopefully with time the school will recognize a winner when they see one and then give the team more money. And at some point it comes down to the booster club and whoever's coaching where that's at to just really, I mean, I remember I volunteered for student move-in day last August, and I was doing it with my roommate Camden, and we ran into Jeremiah Dickey, who's the athletic director at Boise State.
Oh, true.
He's from Texas, and he was, I think it was like his first or second year. Might have been his first, actually. And I think it was a second, or a couple, right? But anyways, talking to him, and I was just kind of trying to sell him on the team and like be like, come out to a game. So it's basically comes down to who you know, and there's a certain group of people that make those decisions, and convincing them to do it right.
And I feel like football and basketball is going to be king. But I mean, even with football and basketball, look at how many people go to those games. Look how much money that brings in for the school. And then even with the Steelheads, how big the Steelheads have gotten here. I feel like if Boise State had a D1 hockey team with very good talent and entertaining hockey, not saying club isn't, but D1's that big of a step 100%. I feel like it's totally doable. I think it would make the school money. I mean, the arena might be kind of a hard thing. I don't know if they're going to play downtown or if they're going to build an arena, but it would be so sick. I feel like a lot of it is money though too.
100%.
So Micron or Simplot, throw some money at them.
Throw some money. Yeah, right. Got to get. I mean, it comes down to two is like you get an anonymous sponsor, like someone who's just like, I'm going to give this team $10 million.
Yeah.
That's what happened to University of Utah lacrosse is they had a donor.
Damn.
Basically
really?
fund them to go from club to Division I lacrosse.
Way.
That's so crazy.
He's like, I want this team to be D1. Here's $10 million.
That's so
Jesus.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
That's a cool thing that rich people do.
Yeah,
that I feel like you don't hear about a lot.
If you have that much money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even with Ryan Smith, like with Utah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
Utah
Honestly.
hockey, which I gave Nux to Ryan Smith,
Yeah. It's a
and he looked at me really weird when I did it. But,
Really?
but it was a cool moment. I'm like, dude, this guy's the owner of the Jazz and the freaking Utah Hockey Club. Utah Yeti. We'll just call him the Utah Yeti.
Yeah.
Right.
Utah. Yeah. Better.
But yeah, man, I mean, that's just cool. Like, and also like that whole process, how that went down with the hockey club and the Coyotes, like, holy crap.
Weird, right?
It's just crazy that someone can just throw that much cash and basically buy a team. And next thing you know, there's NHL hockey in Utah.
4 or 5
I mean, like,
hours away.
Think about a year ago today, like there wasn't even
No.
anything.
We heard about it,
Yeah,
but
there
it
was
wasn't like
speculation.
serious. Yeah.
There's also speculation with Houston and Quebec City.
We're
So
going back to Atlanta or something.
it's crazy that
Yeah.
that just happened within a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was really quick.
It's
too. I
awesome.
feel bad for
Yeah.
the fans, especially because like how quick. Like we have a buddy that is a Coyotes fan. He went to a game like I want to say a month before the team got sold,
yeah,
and he had no idea that was his last game.
Yeah.
No idea.
Sad.
yeah, that's
And
crazy.
Now they're done. But
You got Arizona State.
yeah,
Yeah, they Division
That's
I.
true. They
Yeah.
do have a sick D1 team
Oh,
too,
gosh.
and they're I
Never
know they
knew.
definitely pack their barn. So
Yeah.
I mean, even with that, I mean Arizona State. I know Arizona State's one of the biggest colleges in the nation,
No.
but I mean, look what they did. Arizona's middle of the desert, you know.
Right.
And yeah, sure they have the Coyotes. Sure, it's a big city, but I mean, look how successful their D1 program was, and I feel like their club program was really successful before that. So
Oh, it was.
I feel like that is such like a good example for West Coast teams to do. I feel like Oregon. I'm surprised Oregon hasn't done it, and like I
Yeah.
said, I'm surprised
They
like
probably will at some
Yeah.
point, I assume.
yeah. So I feel like I mean that goes to my next question. Like, do you see a lot of more West Coast teams going D1 in the future?
I mean, yeah, I'd imagine if there's any more teams in
Yeah.
D1, they're going to be West Coast.
Or
right?
do you
But-
think it would go like south first?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean,
Because I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of traction going on
Yeah.
with hockey in the South. Florida's
Right.
like the freaking hockey state right now in the whole world.
yeah.
But I mean,
It's hard to say.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is hard
Yeah.
to say. Hopefully, it happens. It'd be sick if college hockey can take off to the level it even is of college football or college basketball. It will
It
probably
will,
be
yeah.
100
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's one of those sports that could, be in the discussion somewhere. Even I feel like college baseball, if it got to that level of
Yeah.
college baseball, like
Yeah.
it has that potential.
yeah. Are they? I mean, I guess the Frozen. I was gonna say like the College World Series is pretty popular, but the Frozen Four is like. I mean, it's not crazy popular, but I feel like that's
It's
gonna
sick.
It's gonna
Yeah.
get more traction.
Yeah.
And
And you got like high end prospects playing in
Yeah.
NCAA now that are
yeah,
number
that's
one
it.
draft picks.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So I feel like we're gonna see more of that, and I feel like it's just gonna grow the game in the U.S. more and college hockey more. So it'd be sick if Boise State ever went D1. If any
Yeah.
of these, I mean,
All these schools.
it would be sick if Montana State did too. I know they're
Exactly.
having a lot of success. So it's cool to see like club hockey growing hockey, which could turn into an actual D1 team.
Yeah.
So
If I had to guess, I would think UNLV has a good chance.
yeah, I've heard
And
that.
Maybe like North Carolina or North Carolina State, just because
Really?
they've
True.
promoted that already. And like, I think being a fan going to those, like the outdoor game they had on either side, like they want to see more of that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that place like was like, what was where they played the North Carolina State?
Dude, they
football
had, like,
stadium? Was that what you
More
said?
than 10,000 people there.
Oh yeah,
It's like, come
ridiculous.
on.
I mean,
like, dude, give them a freaking D1
I
team.
think
Yeah.
they did it at. I want to say it was around the same time they had the Stadium Series. No.
yeah, it was. Yeah,
It
that's
was
why
the
they had
same-
it there.
Oh,
It
true,
was the
true,
same
true,
time,
true.
yeah.
That was Hurricanes versus who'd they play in that?
Devil?
Wasn't it Canes Devils? Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Look at us.
We run a hockey podcast
Yeah.
and we don't
Yeah.
even know.
We weren't working then. That was not our
Yeah.
timeline. But I think. Let's see. What time is it? 7:45.
Yeah, when did we start? Probably an
Yeah,
hour 15
about
or so.
wrapping up
You have a
here,
game at
but-
like what, 9,
I
right?
Okay.
just saw.
As our wrapping up here, we want to see who's your prediction next year for the NHL.
Oh,
Who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup?
Well, let's start out with who do you think is going to play in the Stanley Cup final?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
If you could pick 2 teams right now.
2 teams right now?
Yeah.
I'm really trying to think about who all went where with like the offseason signings.
Big time.
So that's
so I'll just rattle off some of the offseason signings because we went in a deep dive to this.
Yeah.
I think the Predators are going to be incredibly good.
Yeah, they will be.
They got
good.
Stamkos.
I don't know.
They also got Marchessault. They got Brady Skjei.
I can't believe Vegas gave up on Marchessault.
Yeah. I mean, Gensel went to the Lightning.
Yeah.
The Bruins got Lindholm.
I think the Preds are going to be
into the
same
Blackhawks.
as the Penguins did this year. They're going to be. I mean, I don't know if they have it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Skinner to the Oilers too. I think that's such an underrated signing, even though I hate the Oilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I didn't realize Jeff Skinner went to the Oilers.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna be a 40-goal scorer next year. Like I'm calling it right now.
Poor Buffalo, man.
Dude, I know. Dude, they had so much potential too, but
like Tage Thompson.
But also, like, I feel like Buffalo is still kind of a bubble team. I mean, I feel like they're in their window right now.
They bought out Skinner's contract too. So
Really?
Yeah, I think. Well, he's getting paid.
He's getting older though.
Yeah.
He's
getting paid $8 million a year there for them. So I think they just needed to.
I mean, look what a player like Hyman did though with the Oilers.
True.
Like he
incredible.
Looks like a completely different player than he was with the Leafs. He was good on the Leafs, but like with the Oilers, it's like, what's going on? I feel like that's McDavid and Draisaitl effect.
Right.
But yeah, going back to that, who do you got in the Stanley Cup final?
I'm a type of person to always go with your gut. Like you could talk about all the free agency signing. Like they're important. Like Nashville, Stammer and Marchessault, that's gonna help them a lot. But like something tells me those Colorado Avalanche are just gonna go back. I'd like to think McKinnon is a good enough player, and like even their leadership group, and who knows if Landeskog might be back next year.
Yeah,
True.
Isn't he?
He's been hurt for like 2 years.
Dude. He's gotta be back.
And I couldn't tell you like who they made moves with in the offseason, but I mean, you'd think the Oilers might be back. McDavid's probably gonna go on like revenge tour.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one team out of the West,
I know it's a little bit tough, and it's pretty early too.
It's tough, and it's early. There's just, I mean, the Avs did win it a couple years ago.
I mean, the Avs is a solid pick.
Vancouver is not a bad pick, right? Like
True.
The Knights, I think the Knights might start to fall off.
Really?
Yeah,
I
maybe
could
a
see
little
them
bit.
derailing a little bit.
Just a tiny bit, yeah. I'll probably say Colorado. I just think for some reason McKinnon wants it, and he might just absolutely. I don't know.
He did win MVP, so
he did win MVP, right? And I
called that.
They have a great organization there, and their crowds are awesome, and they like to win. Like that team and that group, they won't tolerate losing, which I feel like is very important. So I'll go Colorado wins the West, and I'd say I bet you they beat the Oilers in the conference finals.
I hope they don't go that far.
Let's say in the East, I mean, I'm always kind of like, I'm a Sharks fan, but I love the Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't think they're tough enough, personally.
Really?
I don't. I think that they're kind of like the Leafs in the sense of they have so much skill, but for some reason they just can't get over that hump.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to pick a team from the East,
I mean, the Rangers are really close, though.
They were close, man, but like, and they lost to
they do have the
Florida,
best
right?
goalie in the league, one of them. So
they do have Igor. Man, the East.
We just put you on the spot with some predictions right here. I know the East is tougher.
Too much time here, but you know what? I know I was just bashing on them, but I'll say the Leafs go to the conference final. Finally, they're probably due for a sneaky run.
Wow. Okay.
I'll say the Leafs go to the conference final and they end up losing to. Hard to say, man. Like I want to say Florida again.
Predators.
Yeah, I almost want to say
the Predators
Florida
are in
again.
the West.
Yeah.
Florida might have something really going there, and like their group, like I think Kachuk is huge. Like Kachuk's a winner.
Yeah.
I don't think Boston is gonna be as good as they were. I know it's funny because you think about hockey so much, but I'm trying to think of all the teams in the East that could win it right now.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, it's
stacked.
Shoot off some names here of who you guys think would.
Okay. I mean, in the East, I think the Rangers are gonna have a really good year again.
Yeah.
I think the Panthers are also gonna have a good year. I think the Lightning are gonna be sneaky. I also think the Devils. I think if Markstrom can figure it out, I think the Devils are going to be really good, and I feel like a lot of people are not talking about them. I think the Leafs are going to be decent, but I can just see them not making it past the second round
Falling
again.
over.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the four teams that I said that have a very good shot of it. I feel like Pittsburgh might sneak in too, especially if they get in the playoffs with all their veteran experience. But yeah, I mean, they just had such a down year. I don't know, but I mean, those are the teams that come to mind. But out of any of them, I mean,
It's hard not to put.
I got a team.
I'd say the Rangers. I'm just going to say
Yeah,
bet and say the Rangers.
I got a team I hope goes and wins the Cup final next year, the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was such a Kane fan growing up, and I was even
Yeah.
a fan of them last year, and they barely missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
I mean, yeah, they're probably an underdog just in terms of they might make the playoffs, and they got to figure out a couple things, but fun team to watch.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, I mean,
Hockey Town, USA.
Cider and freaking Raymond are some young
Yeah.
players that are going to
Dogs.
be really good.
But yeah, I
on
mean,
that
if I had to
team.
pick one from the East, I'll probably go. I'm gonna go Florida. I think Florida
Okay.
goes back to the Cup and they lose to
Yeah.
Avs. I think
All
they'll
right.
win the Cup next
Got
year.
Florida and
That'd be a good matchup.
Oh, it'd be a good
Yeah,
matchup.
it'd be a really good matchup.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before? our cap?
for one last prediction, who do you think the worst team is going to be? That might be a little bit
the
easier.
Anaheim Ducks.
Really, I feel like I've been seeing that a lot.
Yeah. I think
I-
the Sharks. I think the Sharks will be like bottom 5.
Yeah, probably. They
We'll get
gotta be
another-
better than next
Do you
last
think?
year, though.
Do you think you got any idea who's going to win the Calder?
Well, hopefully Macklin Celebrini. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think he would get a lot of ice time with San Jose, and like
Yeah,
it's
true.
gonna be like Bedard, where you're just
He is.
Yeah.
quarterbacking as a
Yeah.
rookie.
That's true.
I'm
s-
curious to see how Chicago does next year.
I'm sticking with my Mitchkov pick.
Yeah. I think
Russian
Mitch
Matt
Kelly-
Lane?
playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's going to do good
I do
things in
too.
Philly, and
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that pick. I think he's still a little bit of an underdog compared to the others, but it's going to be a good. I think that's going to be one of the funnest races to watch next
Yeah,
year.
it'll be a tight race. I think there's a lot of people.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else. Justin, you want to shout out anyone or?
Oh, yeah, I mean, just shout out any of the boys I played with at Boise State, like unforgettable memories. Shout out the team going forward. I'm gonna be watching this year and years to follow. Hopefully, it makes it Division 1 at some point, right?
Yeah.
That would just fill my cup, being able to go to a game someday where it's Division 1 hockey.
Yeah.
Game. But yeah,
That'd be
just
really
shout out, girlfriend, family, friends, and everyone that's just been a part of my career, and even just now, like what I'm doing with life.
Yeah,
Grateful to be alive. Scary incident, getting the skate to the throat. And
yeah, big time,
you just kind of gotta make the most out of every day.
Yeah.
definitely.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, boys. That was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Justin. I
Yeah.
know it's been a long time coming, and we've been good friends for a while. So
Yeah,
thank you for
absolutely.
coming on. You got a lot of cool stories, and you're a great person, like
Yeah,
always.
shout out you
and
too, man. Like we didn't talk about the fraternity at all, and that's just. I mean, that's how we met, right? And
yeah,
I'll never forget because Trav, when I was rushing the fraternity, he just was like, "I got someone you got to meet. He likes
oh
hockey."
my gosh.
And I think the first thing I ever said, he was like, "I heard you're a Flames fan." Yeah, but I think where we're at now and just all the things that we've got to do together, and
Yeah, man, for real.
yeah, Gons. Shout out
Yeah.
the Gons. Yeah, I'll do it with the Gons.
Gons, yeah,
Gons.
go Hooligans.
Go
They're the
Hooligans.
best freaking beer league B league team ever.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back in 2 weeks. September, we're going to go back to doing weekly preseason, do some, what's it called, previews of the divisions and stuff. So
Predictions.
more interviews coming up. And stay tuned. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.